You know, I was walking past a paddock the other day, just a regular field near my house, and I saw a horse standing there.
Hmm.
It was raining a little bit, and this horse was just grazing, completely unbothered. And I had this moment where I realized we see them everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're in our movies, they're the statues in our city squares, they're in our history books. They are so familiar that they've become almost invisible.
It's the background noise of civilization, isn't it?
Yeah.
We just take the horse for granted because it feels like it's always been there, just
Yeah.
waiting for us to climb on.
Exactly. It feels like a piece of furniture in the room of human history. But then I sat down with the stack of research we have for today, specifically Horses, the Ultimate Treasury, and I realized I didn't know the first thing about them. I
Right.
mean, we treat them as these tools of empire or these majestic pets, but the biological reality,
Mm.
the evolutionary history, it is stranger than any sci-fi creature design I've ever read about.
It really is. I mean, when you strip away the saddle and the bridle, all the romanticism, the whole Black Beauty narrative,
Mm.
and you just look at the actual animal, the biological machine, you find a creature that is practically a miracle of engineering.
A miracle.
Yeah, it's an animal that, by all evolutionary logic, probably shouldn't have survived. It's a bundle of contradictions.
Yeah.
It's fragile yet powerful, terrified yet brave.
And that's what we're doing today. We are doing a proper, unfiltered, deep dive into the horse. We're going to trace their arc from a dog-sized forest dweller to the animal that literally carried humanity into the modern age.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to start with the thing that genuinely shocked me right on page 1, the origin story. Because if you had asked me yesterday, where do wild horses come from? I would have bet my house on the Mongolian steppes, or maybe Spain.
And you would have lost your house.
Yeah.
But don't feel bad, because that is what almost everyone thinks. It just feels intuitive.
Oh, clearly.
The great horse cultures, the Scythians, the Mongols, the Huns, they all came out of Asia. So we associate the wild gallop with the Eurasian steppe.
Mm.
But the biology, the actual fossil record, it tells a completely different story. The cradle of the horse isn't Asia.
It's here. It's North America.
It's North America.
This is the aha moment for me. The horse is an American native.
It is. The genus Equus evolved on the grassy plains of North America about 4 to 5 million years ago. They are as American as the bison or the redwood tree. The evolutionary pressures that shape them, the specific grasses, the predators, those were all North American pressure.
So walk me through the geography here, because this paints a wild picture. If they started in North America, how did they end up carrying Genghis Khan across Asia? They didn't swim the Atlantic.
No, they walked. You have to picture the map of the ice ages.
Mm.
Back then, the sea levels were so much lower because all this water was locked up in glacial ice.
Right.
So there was a massive land bridge connecting what is now Alaska to what is now Siberia. We call it Beringia. Now, horses are nomadic by nature. They are engines built for movement. So over thousands and thousands of years, herds of them simply grazed their way across that bridge. They moved from the plains of the Americas up through Alaska, across the ice and tundra, into Siberia.
And from there.
From there, the entire Eurasian continent was open to them. They spread like wildfire down into Asia, across to Europe, and even down into Africa to differentiate into what we now know as zebras and asses.
So they basically conquer the world. They become this global success story. But then, and this is the part that feels like a plot twist in a movie, they disappeared from home.
Yes. It's one of the great paleontological mysteries, and it's actually quite tragic. About 10 to 12,000 years ago, right at the end of the last ice age, the horse went completely extinct in the Americas.
Just gone.
Vanished, wiped out.
Do we know why? Was it a disease? A comet?
It's debated, but the leading theory is a kind of perfect storm. The climate was changing rapidly, which was altering the vegetation, the very grasslands they depended on. But at the same time, a new apex predator had arrived across that same land bridge, but coming from the other direction.
Humans?
Humans.
Mm-hmm.
The Clovis people.
Yeah.
We find kill sites, we find horse bones with spear points in them. It's very likely we hunted them to oblivion in their own birthplace. So for thousands of years, while civilizations were rising in Egypt and China using horses, the Americas were completely horseless.
Which means when the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 1500s on horseback.
It wasn't an invasion of an alien species, it was a homecoming.
Wow.
They were inadvertently reintroducing a native species to its ancestral environment. And that's why the Mustangs in the American West thrive so well. That's why their population exploded so quickly.
They weren't adapting to a new land.
No, they were biologically programmed for those exact plains. Their DNA literally recognized the grass.
That context just changes everything for me. It frames the horse not just as a farm animal, but as this survivor of a global epic. But to understand how they survived, how they managed to not get wiped out everywhere else, we need to get into their heads. You had a note in the prep material about the prey paradox.
Yes, this is, for me, the single most important concept for this whole deep dive. If you take one thing away today, let it be this. The horse is a prey animal. It is food. It is a walking buffet for wolves, for mountain lions, and for a very long time for early humans.
Which sounds obvious. Of course, we know they eat grass and get eaten by lions, but I don't think we really internalize what that means for their psychology. We look at a horse and we see a big, strong animal. We assume it's confident.
Right, but think about the psychology of a predator. Humans, dogs, cats, we are predators. Our psychology is all about focus, acquisition, aggression, problem solving.
Yeah.
We look at something and our brain asks, can I eat that or can I use that?
Okay.
A horse's entire biological imperative, the operating system of their brain, is one question, repeated over and over: don't get eaten.
Is there a wolf behind that rock?
Is there a wolf behind that rock?
Right.
Was that a stick snapping?
Yeah.
What was that shadow?
Yeah.
Every single system in their body, their legs, their eyes, their digestion, their social structure, is engineered to answer that question.
It's survival of the most paranoid.
Precisely. And that paranoia, that fear, is what fueled their evolution. It's what built the machine. To really understand this, let's dial the clock back way before the Ice Age. Let's go back 50 million years. We're in the Eocene era, and we meet Ethereum.
The dawn horse. And looking at the sketches in the source material, this thing does not look like a Clydesdale. It doesn't even look like a pony.
No, not even close. Picture a creature about the size of a fox terrier, maybe a small golden retriever. It has an arched back. It's probably covered in spots or stripes for camouflage like a fawn. And it lives in dense, humid forests.
And the feet, this is the weirdest part for me. It had toes, like actual separate toes.
Yes, 4 toes on the front feet, 3 on the back. And they had little pads under them, almost like a dog's paw.
Why toes? If the hoof is such a great invention, why would you start with toes?
Because of the ground.
Yeah.
The environment dictates the design. The forest floor is soft. It's leaf litter, it's mud, moss, wet soil.
Right.
If you have a single hard hoof, think of it like a stiletto heel. You just sink. You get stuck. You need splayed toes to distribute your weight. It's the snowshoe principle. Ethereum used it to scamper over soft ground to hide under bushes.
So we have this tiny, multi-toed animal eating leaves in the forest. How in the world do we get from that to the galloping giant we know today?
The world changed. It's always the environment. Over millions of years, the climate dried out. The dense forests receded, and the great grasslands, the savannas, and the steppes opened up.
Okay.
This was a crisis for the little forest horse. In a forest, survival is about hiding. You freeze, you blend in. But on the open plains, there's nowhere to hide. You are visible for miles.
You're exposed. If a predator sees you, you can't just duck under a fern.
Exactly. So the survival strategy had to shift from hiding to running. And not just running, but outrunning everything else.
Yeah.
So evolution began to stretch their legs. But there's a physics problem. If you want to swing a leg fast, you want it to be light at the end. Think of a pendulum. You don't want a heavy weight at the bottom. It slows down the swing.
So having a bunch of heavy toes is inefficient.
Very inefficient.
Yep.
To make the limb lighter and more efficient for high-speed swinging, the outer toes began to shrink and eventually vanish. The middle toe became larger, stronger, and eventually encased in a tough capsule of keratin.
The hoof.
The hoof is just one giant specialized middle finger, if you will, designed to hit the ground hard, absorb the shock, and propel the animal forward without adding any drag or excess weight. It's a dedicated sprinting spike.
That's a vivid image, but it makes perfect sense. It's stripping away all the excess to build a pure speed machine.
Exactly. And the diet changed too. Eating leaves, that's called browsing,
Right.
is easy on the teeth. Leaves are soft, but grass. Grass is terrible food.
Really? It seems so simple.
It's full of silica, which is basically microscopic glass. It's an anti-herbivore defense mechanism that the grass evolved. It wears teeth down like sandpaper. If Ethereum tried to eat plain grass, its little teeth would have been worn down to the gum line in a month and would have starved to death.
So the teeth had to change too.
Drastically. The modern horse evolved these massive, high-crowned teeth. They're huge. They take up a lot of space in the skull, which is partly why horses have such long faces. And these teeth act like millstones. They continually erupt throughout the horse's life as the tops get worn down by the grass.
So the animal we see today is basically a running machine built by the fear of wolves, powered by chewing on sandpaper.
That is a very, very accurate summary. And to keep that machine safe, To make sure it starts running before the wolf actually attacks, they developed what we often call super senses.
Okay, let's talk about the vision, because I've looked into a horse's eyes. They are huge, deeper than you expect. And it's a very different experience than looking at a dog. A dog looks at you. A horse seems to look everywhere at once.
It's all about the placement. Predators, owls, wolves, we have eyes on the front of our faces. That gives us binocular vision.
Right, for depth perception.
Exactly. To judge the jump on the prey, we lock on. The horse has eyes on the sides of its head, bulging out. This gives them monocular vision with a field of view of almost 350 degrees.
350, they can almost see their own tail.
Pretty much.
Hmm.
While they are grazing, with their head down, they can see the horizon all around them. It's a panoramic early warning system. They can detect motion almost anywhere in that circle without even moving their head.
But there's a catch, right, the blind spots. The source mentioned this is a huge safety hazard for humans.
A huge one. They cannot see directly behind them, which is why you never, ever walk up silently behind a horse, or you might get kicked out of pure reflex. And they cannot see directly under their nose or right in front of their forehead.
Ah, that explains why sometimes a horse will freak out if you suddenly raise your hand near its face to pet it.
Yes. To them, your hand just materialized out of thin air,
Yeah.
right in their blind spot.
That triggers the flight response.
Instantly. And their color vision is different, too. They're what we call dichromatic. They see blues and yellows pretty well, but they can't distinguish reds and greens.
So a red apple in green grass?
It's just a gray blob in a different gray background. They find that apple by smell, not by sight.
Speaking of smell, I have to ask about the face. You know the one where they curl their lip up and show their teeth and it looks like they're laughing at you? I've seen those viral videos of laughing horses.
The Fleeman response.
Yeah.
It looks hilarious to us, like a grimace or a big smile, but it's actually serious chemical analysis.
They're acting like a sommelier. I'm getting notes of Oaken and Mayer.
In a way, yes. By curling the lip, they close off their nostrils to regular breathing, and they force air through a little slit in the roof of their mouth into something called the vomeronasal organ, or Jacobson's organ.
Okay.
It's a specialized sensory organ that detects pheromones and complex scents that the regular nose might miss.
So when a stallion does that, he's not laughing at a joke you told.
No. He's usually checking if a mare is an estrus, if she's ready to mate. Or he might be analyzing a predator's scent on a trail, or checking to see which other horses passed by yesterday. He is literally tasting the air to gather intelligence. It's a survival tool.
It really drives home the point that their perception of the world is so much richer and probably more terrifying than ours is. Even their skin is different. We think of them as these tough, thick-skinned animals. You know, we slap them on the neck to congratulate them.
Physically thick, yes. The hide is tough. But neurologically, they are hypersensitive. Have you ever seen a horse twitch its skin when a single fly lands on it?
Yeah, the fly shrug, the whole muscle ripples.
That's the panniculus carnosus muscle. We don't have it. We have to use our hands to swat a fly. A horse can isolate and twitch a specific patch of skin on their flank, just a few square inches, to dislodge a single fly. That is how sensitive they are to touch. They can feel a fly landing on a 1,200-pound body.
Which makes it even more incredible that they let us sit on them. I mean, we are basically a backpack of predators sitting right on top of their spine, kicking them with our heels.
It goes against every single instinct they have. Every alarm bell in their brain should be ringing, "Predator, run!"
And that leads us really to the domestication story. Because it wasn't a straight line from wild to writing. It was a slow, messy process.
Before we get to the writing, though, we need to clear up some terminology. The source material is very specific about the difference between wild and feral. And I think I've been using the word wild wrong my whole life.
Most people do. It's a really common misconception. When you see the Mustangs in Nevada, or the Brumbies in Australia, or the Camargue horses in France, those are not wild horses.
Those are feral.
Correct. Feral means their ancestors were domesticated at some point. They have the genetics of a tame animal, all the selective breeding, the temperament changes, but they escaped or were released and have reverted to living in the wild.
So a true wild horse is one whose lineage has never been domesticated. Not once. And today, there is only one species left on the entire planet.
The Przewalski's horse.
Exactly. Named after the Russian explorer Colonel Nikolai Przewalski, who discovered them for Western science in Mongolia in the 1880s. Before that, science didn't even know they existed. The locals knew, of course.
Yeah.
They call them taki, which means spirit.
And they look different, right? They aren't just brown horses. If you put one next to say, a quarter horse, you'd see the difference immediately.
Oh, very different. They have a very primitive look. They're dun-colored, that sort of sandy beige that blends into the steppe, with a pale, mealy muzzle. They have a heavy jaw. But the real giveaway is the mane.
The mane.
Yeah. Domestic horses have long, flowing manes that fall to one side. Przewalski's horses have a short, stiff, upright mane. Looks like a mohawk or a scrub brush.
Punk rock horses.
And they have a punk rock attitude to match. They are notoriously aggressive and stubborn. You cannot ride them. People have tried. It does not end well. They simply will not have it.
I was reading that they were actually extinct in the wild for a while.
They were. By the 1960s, due to hunting and competition for grazing with livestock, they were gone from the steppes.
Yeah.
Completely gone. Zoos essentially saved the entire species.
Wow.
They took the remaining captive animals. I think there were only about 12 or 14 breeding individuals left at one point. And through careful breeding programs, they've successfully reintroduced them to Mongolia. It's a huge conservation success story.
So if those are the true wild ones and we can't ride them, who did we domesticate?
We likely domesticated a now extinct cousin of the Przewalski's horse, a strain that was perhaps slightly less aggressive, a little more curious. The turning point seems to be about 5,500 years ago in what is now Kazakhstan with the bow tie culture.
And the evidence for this is fascinating. It's not just finding bones, it's forensic dentistry.
It is. Archaeologists found horse skulls from around 3,500 BCE. They looked at the premolars, the teeth where a metal or bone bit would sit in the mouth. And they found these microscopic wear patterns, a beveling on the teeth, that can only be caused by a bit grinding against the tooth over and over.
So that's the smoking gun. They were controlling them with bridles.
Yes, but here is the nuance. Initially, it probably wasn't for riding into battle. It was for food. We find huge pits with thousands of horse bones at these sites. Then they started herding them, likely for meat and for milk.
Mare's milk. Kumis.
Exactly. Fermented mare's milk. It's still a staple in Central Asia. It's rich, high in sugar, and when it's fermented, alcohol. So the relationship went prey, nest, livestock, dev, vehicle. It took a long time for us to realize, hey, wait a minute, I can sit on this thing.
And that transition to vehicle is what just exploded human history. But before we get to the history, let's talk about the hardware, the breeds. Because once we started breeding them, humans took this one animal and just molded it into these wildly different shapes. It's like we took the chassis of a car and built a tractor, a Ferrari, and a minivan all on top of it.
We became biological sculptors, and we generally categorize them into three types: cold bloods, hot bloods, and warm bloods.
Which, again, is not about their body temperature. They're all mammals. They're all warm-blooded.
No, it's about metabolism and temperament. Cold bloods are the draft horses. Clydesdales, Shires, Percherons. They are massive, heavy-boned, slow, and incredibly calm. They're tractors with a heartbeat.
Right.
They don't spook easily. You could fire a cannon next to some of them, and they'll just keep eating their hay.
And hot bloods are the opposite.
The complete opposite. The racers, Arabs, thoroughbreds. Thin-skinned, literally you can see the veins, huge lung capacity, quick twitch muscles, and a hot temperament. That means they are reactive, high energy, and easily startled. They are built for speed and stamina, not pulling a plow.
And the warm blood is the Goldilocks mix.
Exactly. We bred the hot blood for its athleticism with the cold blood for its calmness and its bone density. That's your modern Olympic sport horse. The jumpers, the dressage horses, the best of both worlds.
There were a few specific breeds in the source that I found just fascinating. The Caspian, for example. The Royal Miniature. The story is wild. It's like finding a living dinosaur in your backyard.
It is a great detective story. For centuries, historians looked at these ancient Persian carvings, think 2,500 years ago, showing kings hunting lions, but they were riding these tiny, delicate, perfectly proportioned horses.
And everyone just assumed it was artistic license, right? Oh, they made the horse small to make the king look bigger.
Exactly. Historians just dismissed it as symbolism.
Yeah.
Until 1965. An American woman named Louise Ferouz was living in Iran. She was looking for some small ponies for a children's riding school she was starting.
Okay.
She went into a remote mountainous village near the Caspian Sea, and she found them. They weren't ponies. Ponies are kind of stocky and thick. These were perfectly proportioned miniature horses.
The same ones from the carvings.
The very same. They had survived in isolation for 1,000 years. Genetic testing later showed they are likely the ancestors of the modern Arab horse. It's probably the oldest domesticated breed in existence. And she literally rediscovered a lost chapter of history, pulling a vegetable cart in a tiny village.
That's incredible. Speaking of the Arab, the source mentions something about the Bedouin tradition that surprised me. In the movies, the hero always rides a big, fiery stallion. It's the symbol of power. But the Bedouin preferred mares for war?
They did. And it was a purely tactical decision. A stallion is loud. If you are raiding an enemy camp at night, a sneak attack called a ghazal, and your stallion smells another horse, especially a mare, he will whinny. He will challenge them.
Not great for a sneak attack.
A total disaster. It's your alarm bell for the enemy. A mare is quiet.
Yeah.
She doesn't have that territorial aggression. She will bond with her rider and stay silent. So the most prized war horses in the desert were the females. They were the secret weapon.
That's a detail that totally flips the script on that masculine warhorse trope. Now, moving from the desert to the islands. The Shetland pony. We think of them as cute, petting zoo animals with shaggy manes.
Which is a huge disservice to them. Pound for pound, the Shetland is the strongest equine on the planet. They can pull twice their own weight. Twice. They evolved on the Shetland Isles, rocky, cold, windy, with very scarce food. It made them compact, efficient, and incredibly tough.
And that toughness was exploited in a really dark way during the Industrial Revolution. The pit ponies.
Yes. Because they were small enough to fit in the low-ceiling tunnels and strong enough to pull the heavy carts, they were perfect for the coal mines. Thousands of them lived their entire lives underground, hauling coal in the dark.
The source mentioned their coats were so thick they were actually protected from scraping against the tunnel walls.
A grim kind of adaptation. They would grow these massive double coats. It just shows the versatility of the species. We put them in deserts, we put them in swamps like the Camargue horses in France, and we put them in coal mines, and they adapted. They served us wherever we went.
This adaptability is what allowed them to change history. Which brings us to section 4 of our deep dive, horses that changed history. And this is where the partnership turns into dominance, because once we got up on that back, everything changed.
Once we figured out how to ride effectively, the speed of human interaction, trade, war, communication, it accelerated by a factor of 10. The world effectively got smaller overnight.
We have to talk about the Scythians. These were the nomads of the Eurasian steppes around 800 BCE.
The first true horse culture. Before them, people used chariots, which were clumsy. But the Scythians figured out how to fight from the saddle. They didn't just ride. They lived in the saddle. They fought, ate, and some say even slept on horseback. They would drink the blood of their horses mixed with milk if they ran out of water.
And the source suggests they are the origin of the centaur myth.
It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Imagine you are a Greek infantryman. You walk everywhere. Maybe you've seen a horse pulling a cart. Suddenly, over the hill comes a horde of Scythians. They move in perfect unison with the animal. They control the horse with just their knees, leaving their hands free for the bow.
So it's from a distance.
From a distance, in the dust and the chaos, you don't see a man on a horse. You see a single terrifying entity with 2 arms and 4 legs.
The psychological impact must have been devastating. It's like seeing a cyborg for the first time.
It was. And that psychological warfare evolved. I mean, look at Alexander the Great. You cannot tell the story of Alexander without his horse, Bucephalus.
This story is so cinematic. King Philip, Alexander's dad, is looking at this huge black stallion. It's a monster. Unrideable, rearing, kicking, just out of control. Philip says, "Get rid of it. It's useless."
And Alexander, who was only about 13 years old at the time, he intervenes. He's been watching. And he notices something the adults, the professional horse trainers, all missed.
What's that?
The horse isn't mean. The horse is terrified. It's afraid of its own shadow dancing on the ground.
So what does he do?
He calmly takes the bridle and turns the horse's face toward the sun. The shadow falls behind the horse where it can't see it. The horse calms down instantly. Alexander jumps on, rides him, and comes back to his stunned father.
And his father says something prophetic.
"My son, look for a kingdom worthy of yourself, for Macedonia is too small for you."
And Bucephalus carried him all the way to India.
He did. They were inseparable. When Bucephalus finally died of old age and battle wounds after the Battle of the Hydaspes in modern Pakistan, Alexander was heartbroken. He founded a city right there on the spot and named it Bucephala.
I love that. A city named after a horse. But if we talk about changing the map of the world, we have to talk about the Mongols. Genghis Khan.
If the Scythians were scary, the Mongols were a force of nature. They conquered the largest contiguous land empire in human history. And they didn't do it because they had better swords or guns. They did it because they had better horse logistics.
The remuda system.
Right. A European knight had one big, expensive war horse. If it got tired or died, he was walking. A Mongol warrior didn't have one horse. He had a string of 3 or 4 of these tough steppe ponies following him like a train.
So when one gets tired.
He just jumps onto the next one without stopping. This allowed the Mongol army to cover up to 100 miles in a single day. The European armies could maybe do 20-25 on a good day. The Mongols could appear out of nowhere, strike and vanish before the enemy even woke up. It was the blitzkrieg of the 13th century.
And they had a piece of technology that changed the physics of riding, the stirrup.
The stirrup is one of the most underrated inventions in all of military history. Before the stirrup, you had to grip the horse with your thighs. If you swung a sword too hard or you took a heavy impact from a spear, you'd fall off. You were unstable.
Physics is not your friend in that situation?
Not at all. With stirrups, you can stand up, you can brace yourself, you can absorb the shock of the gallop with your knees. This creates a stable, rotating platform. It allowed the Mongols to fire arrows with sniper-like precision while moving at full speed, even shooting backward over the horse's rump, the famous Parthian shot.
And they kept those skills sharp with a game that sounds absolutely brutal. Buzkashi.
Oh, it is. It's still played today in Central Asia. It's like polo, but instead of a ball, you use a headless goat carcass.
Why a carcass? Why not just a heavy leather bag or something?
Because a carcass is heavy, about 40 to 60 pounds. It's awkward, it's slippery, and it doesn't bounce. It simulates the dead weight of a prisoner or a wounded comrade. Wrestling that carcass off the ground while at a full gallop, while other riders are literally whipping you and your horse to get it away from you, requires immense strength and riding skill. It was military training disguised as sport.
Talk about high stakes. But my favorite story from the history section isn't about an army. It's about a single horse, Cheetah.
The Battle of Haldagadi, 1576, in India. This is a legend in Rajasthan. Cheetah was a Marwari horse. This is a specific Indian breed known for their ears. They curve inward and the tips can actually touch, forming a lyre shape. He was ridden by the king, Maharana Pratap.
And they were fighting elephants.
War elephants. Now you have to recall the prey paradox. Biologically, horses are terrified of elephants. The smell alone usually makes them bolt. They're huge. They make these low-frequency rumbles. So Pratap and his army came up with this genius, if completely bizarre, solution. They put a mask on Cheetah.
An elephant mask.
Yes. A prosthetic mask with a fake trunk hanging down. The idea was to confuse the enemy elephants into thinking, oh, that's just a baby elephant, so they wouldn't attack it immediately.
That is Looney Tunes level brilliance. Did it work?
It worked well enough to get them close. Cheetah rode right up to the enemy general's huge war elephant. He reared up and planted his hooves on the elephant's head, so Pratap could throw his spear at the general in the howdah.
That image, a horse rearing up against a war elephant, is just incredible.
But it ended in tragedy. The elephant had a sword attached to its tusk, a common weapon back then. As Cheetah came down, the tusk sliced through his rear leg, severing a tendon.
Oh no. A fatal injury for a horse?
Absolutely. But this is why he's a legend. Despite a severed tendon, effectively running on 3 legs and pure adrenaline, Cheetah didn't collapse. He carried Pratap away from the battle, outrunning the enemy pursuit. He even jumped a wide river gorge with that injury. Only once his master was safe on the other side did Cheetah finally collapse and die.
That's the prey paradox broken right there. He overrode his survival instinct. He overrode the pain purely for the bond with the rider.
Exactly. It shows that the domestication process wasn't just about us enslaving them. It created a partnership, a bond that goes deep. A horse will run until its heart bursts for a rider it trusts.
And it's stories like that which lead us into the final realm, the myths. Because when an animal is that important to your survival, you don't just respect it, you worship it, you make it divine.
We project everything onto them. Our hopes, our fears. We have the unicorn, the ultimate symbol of purity and grace. Though the source had a pretty funny reality check on that one.
The unicorn horns in medieval treasuries.
Narwhal tusks. Brought back by Viking and Arctic traders, they were sold for more than their weight in gold. But people wanted to believe in the magical horse so badly, they didn't question why it smelled faintly of the ocean.
Then you have Pegasus, the ultimate wish fulfillment. Flight.
It's the next logical step, isn't it? If riding a horse makes you faster than a man, then riding a flying horse makes you a god. It's the ultimate freedom.
But not all the myths are so benevolent. The Kelpie from Celtic folklore really freaked me out reading this.
The Celtic water horse. It's a cautionary tale. It appears as a beautiful, tame-looking pony standing by a loch or a river. It stands very still, as if it's waiting for a rider.
But if you touch it...
Your skin sticks to it, like superglue. You can't let go. And the moment you are stuck, it dives straight to the bottom of the water to drown and devour you.
It's a horror movie monster.
But it reflects the reality. Horses are dangerous. Rivers are dangerous. The myth encodes the respect and the caution you need to have for nature. It's a way to teach children. Don't approach strange animals near deep water.
And then there are the multi-limbed gods. Sleipnir, Odin's horse from Norse mythology.
8 legs.
Why 8? Is it just to look cool?
It's about stability and speed. In the myths, Sleipnir could travel between the realms Asgard, Midgard, Hel, the underworld. 8 legs meant he never missed a step, even when galloping between dimensions. It represents the horse as the vehicle of the soul, the only thing that can carry you from this world to the next.
So we've looked at the biology, the breeds, the wars, and the gods. We've seen them evolve from these tiny leaf eaters to the literal engines of civilization. And now, we don't really need them anymore.
Not for work, no. The internal combustion engine replaced the horse in the blink of an eye, historically speaking. In 1900, New York City ran on horses. By 1930, it ran on gasoline.
Yet we still have them. We still spend billions of dollars on them. We race them, we show them, we keep them as pets in our backyards.
Because the bond was never just about utility. It was companionship. We shaped them, but they shaped us too. There is a deep, almost genetic memory of that partnership. Winston Churchill famously said, "There's something about the outside of a horse that is good for the inside of a man."
It's true. Standing by that paddock the other day, I felt calmer just watching it graze. It was grounding.
They regulate us. They are honest. You can't lie to a horse. They read your body language, your heart rate, better than you do.
I want to leave the listener with a thought that really stuck with me from the Alexander the Great section. We talked about his horse, Bucephalus, and the city he named after him.
Bucephala.
Right. And thinking about it, how many generals or kings or wealthy merchants from 300 BC can you name off the top of your head? Probably very few. Most of those names are just dust. But we know the name of the horse. We know Bucephalus. We know Cheetah.
It says something profound about us, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We recognize that we didn't build this world alone. We had a silent partner. And even though the cities have crumbled and the empires have fallen, we still remember and honor the animal that carried us there.
I'll never look at a paddock the same way again. It's not just a horse grazing. It's 4 million years of history standing on 4 legs.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, keep looking for the stories hiding in plain sight. We'll see you next time.